After her cousin gives birth, Miriam leaves to return to Nazareth. By this time, she is 3 months pregnant. This means that she is experiencing morning sickness. A virgin 3 months pregnant? This doesn't make sense, especially to her legally binding soon-to-be husband Yosef. He starts to contemplate what to do in regard with their urison, or engagement. This seems to indicate that she has committed adultery, which can be punishable by death on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. Yosef, who has been studying Torah since the urison was made, decides to not bring her to the court of 23 elders, the city council, on the grounds there are no 2 male witnesses to her infidelity. The result would not only be the death of Miriam, but the shame of both families. A second solution is that 2 male witnesses. A second solution is that without 2 male witnesses to her infidelity, is the sokta, as attested by Midbar or Numbers 5:11 through 31. The result would not only be the possible death of Miriam, but the shame of both families and the couple. He rather begins to favor breaking the Erusin, which will bring shame upon both families. Keep in mind, at times this life isn't easy. We have valleys with briars that we must walk through to get to our mountaintops. Yosef recalls that Mishle 18:22 says, "He who finds a wife finds a great good. He has won favor of Adonai." Right now, though, Yosef most likely feels like the Nebi Joshua or Hosea, trapped in humility and sick to his soul. As he works in his shop, men probably give him looks of heartbreak for him. As Miriam goes to draw water, women most likely jeer at her in disgust. As Yosef leaves the gate to get lumber, the elders try to encourage him. As Miriam learns to do her feminine roles while pregnant, and Yosef deals with trying to focus on the table he might be making, the townsfolk commit slander against the 2. As he sleeps one night in the 4th or so month of Miriam's pregnancy, the oil lamps in the house bow low. A wind enters the house as the air in the house grows still. In a moment that most likely echoes when Abraham saw a censer and a torch pass through pieces of meat, Yosef awakens to the sound of footsteps. Given Nazareth being what it is, he most likely prepares to fight until he sees the figure that is in the house. Prince Gabriel stands before him. Looking upon him, Yosef probably marvels at his sword and a shofar, knowing fully well that this moment is not a simple messenger coming to take his prayer request to the throne and bringing his blessings to him. This prince says, "Yosef, son of David, do not be afraid to take Miriam home with you as your wife, for what has been conceived in her is from the Ruach HaKodesh, or the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to name him Yeshua, because he will save his people from their sins." As Joseph wakes up in the morning light, he possesses a sense of calm that passes all understanding. He possibly goes to the synagogue and reads some passages before he goes to Miriam's father's house. To the disbelief of all, he announces his intentions to still marry Miriam. At the Nisan, or wedding, a smaller crowd gathers to attend. Most of the invited guests have most likely returned their invites as they wish not to be a part of a slanderous wedding. In the wake of the uncomfortable and unusual Nisun, or wedding, the slander intensifies. While Joseph and Miriam enjoy married life and are expecting a 1,860-year-old promise, pictorial imperial legate of Syria, Gaius Julius Caesar Vipatanius, on orders of Emperor Augustus Caesar, issues a decree demanding a tax based upon a man's ancestor. This tax requires every man to go to the city where his most distant ancestor, who was not a common ancestor with other lines, was born. This practically means that every man has to go to the ancestral city of the head of his line. Upon looking at Yosef's family tree, one can ascertain that the generations predating the United Kingdom should be removed from consideration. This leaves those that existed after 1050 BC. The closest of these ancestors is Zerubbabel, but as he has convoluted lines on account of a confusion as to if he was the nephew or son of Shealtiel, the most distant ancestor which cannot be convoluted in such a way is David, or David. David was born in Bethlehem, 83 miles to the south and around 200 miles away. Keep in mind, though the two cities were only 83 miles away, no Jew worth his bar mitzvah would enter the hills of Ephraim where the Shomroni or Samaritans dwell. The 200-mile circumnavigating route traverses roads in mountainous areas, wildernesses, and a river valley. This will mean that Yosef will have to travel a few weeks down to the historic and holy city in which shepherds of the Levium guard their sheep while leaving a possibly 7 or 8 month pregnant wife behind. It is not possible for him to leave her at home while he goes off to obey the yoke of Rome, as he will be thinking about her and not himself, about the fact that she could go into labor while he is away. Around late July to mid-August 1 AD, Yosef and Miriam joined a caravan bound for Damascus on Via Maris, or the Sea Road. Then meet a caravan heading south on Via Regia, or the King's Highway. Once past Gerasa, they join a caravan bound to cross the Jordan River. Fording the river, they then travel to Jerusalem. From here, they go to Bethlehem, near the middle of the city. They cannot find any vacancy in the shelters beside a house. This is the style of inn in this area. The innkeeper offers them shelter in the cave where he keeps his livestock. This is open to public view and is bought by Yosef to rent and stay in. In this cave, Miriam goes into labor as night falls. Around 1.6 miles away is a hillside. There are shepherds watching over their flocks. These shepherds are Levium, which have the role of raising sheep for the korbanot, or the sacrifices at the temple. They cannot participate in the weekly Shabbat services in the synagogues. Though their job is needed, they are also unclean due to working on Shabbat, which defiles the day and makes them cut off from gathering with worshipers. As the citizens and travelers settle down for the night, midwives come to the cave. It is possible that her pains are not as intense as other women. After the child comes forth, Yosef blocks the entrance to shepherds until they explain that they had a vision. In this vision, a malach, or an angel, told them, "Don't be afraid, because I am here announcing to you good news that will bring great joy to all the people. This very day in the town of David, there was born for you a deliverer who is the Messiah, the Lord. Here is how you will know. You will find a baby wrapped in cloth and lying in a feeding trough." Soon, Azapha Malachim, an army of messengers, appear and praise the Eternal One. The shepherds are allowed to see the infant who is laying in a feeding trough, which is a hewn niche in the wall of the cave. After they leave, the couple and the infant rest. For 7 days, Miriam observes the regulations of a woman on her menstrual cycle. In late September or early October, he is given his Brit Milah and named Yeshua.